Thank you so much for making time and being here with us on the show, right?
We are quite excited to be here too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. It feels amazing to be back.
To be back.
To be back.
By the way, it has been 7 months now since the last time I hosted you, and I thought it was a year. Just the other day, though.
It looks like it was just yesterday, by the way.
A lot of things have changed, eh?
Yeah, by the way, yeah. But still, people do see us in the
If you watch Look Up TV, then you've seen them. You must have seen them most of the time, probably on Saturdays on Mtoto News. This Omar Ahmed, thank you so much. Brian King, what do you call that?
Mtoto News Insights.
No. You have my name. So between you and I, who exactly went first?
Oh, by the way, it is Brian King and then him.
I don't know. You guys are quite confused. It's Gombo and the rest.
Oh, we don't. You see, we're talking about Brian's here. So
Okay. Away from that, now we are here because you are under COVID under 19. I want to understand that first, and also just the role that you're going to be playing there, because it's 320. You are the best. How was that for you first?
Well, it's quite exciting because globally, out of 320 at least, and it was quite amazing and surprising because two of us from Mtoto News International got to be chosen. Like, both of us are doing great things, and we got to be chosen. So it was really amazing. Okay. Yeah. So you want me to explain about the COVID-19?
I think he's going to do that, right?
Okay.
Because you are the young voices here, and you represent your child advocates, and you're speaking about the young people. So exactly how important that voice is. And just before we get into how important that is, let me come to you and you give us a brief of exactly what COVID under 19 is.
Oh yes, I love that you mentioned children voices because that is basically what COVID under 19 is. COVID under 19 is actually a partnership of over 30 organizations. Yes, they bring children together to actually create an advisory team where children can actually sit down and bring issues to the table, and we come up with ideas on ways on how to solve them. Like, for example, the UN has, currently the world is facing climate change, right? The COVID under 19 advisory team is actually, will actually sit down and come up with solutions, children's solutions, because we believe that climate change is actually an issue that is facing us. It's basically about making sure that the child is seated at the table whenever issues affecting children are being raised. Yes.
Okay. Now, you see, before we started, somebody said, oh, these guys are very young. Exactly what are you going to discuss? But you see,
my friend,
somebody looks at you and they start dismissing and say, these are kids. What? No, not kids though. These are young people. So what exactly are you, do you get that a lot when you have to fight for space on the table and just say every other important thing I think in the nation that is happening across the country, across the globe, also affects children, and we also need to be put on that table to actually talk about it. Do people dismiss you for that?
Well, actually, it does happen because, you know, sometimes when you mention that you want to bring children in and get to talk about matters that are affecting the world and involve children in them, sometimes people may be like, no, children can't know anything. I mean, their voices are not that, you know, and all that. But when we actually get to sit with them and then we speak, and then they hear our voices, and they hear maybe sometimes even the grammar we are using and all that.
Surprise.
Yeah, I know. Like, you know, they're usually like, oh, wow, so you guys know about this. Because sometimes we even mention the big organizations. Like, for example, if I can mention something about Article 12 of the UNCRC, it really states that a child has the right to express him or herself, to be able to get the challenges that they're going through and actually come up with solutions. So you see, when I mention something like that and someone didn't know, they're like, oh, wait. That's actually quite interesting. Yeah, and all that. So we do get that a lot, but we usually try to make our voices heard as child advocates.
Let me come to you, Brian. Do you feel like during the pandemic and, you know, during this period, because we are not yet out of the pandemic, the voices of, you know, children have actually been suppressed? Have you been given enough platform to actually express yourself and say, this is exactly what you want?
Well, no, you yourself said, you literally said we have to fight for a spot on the table. And that's just it. Because Omar literally said, when you are thinking about children, you don't think about smarts. You're like, children are the outcome of parents, as in we're usually subservient or something like that. So yes, our voices have been muffled to an extent where I can actually say our rights are being violated. because it is actually the right of a child to, you know, be heard and his voice or her voice to be expressed and heard. And COVID-19, the name is literally COVID-19. This was formed because COVID is almost gone, by the way. Man, congratulations, and we're happy for that. COVID is almost gone, but the effects of COVID are still there. And children are actually the ones who are suffering the most. We're talking about malnutrition because of high cost of living, because of COVID. Children are the ones that are going to be affected the most. And so if they don't give us a voice, Amoy, my friend, we have to fight for it. And that is why me, Omar, and the team at Mtoto News and other places are also trying to fight for this. Like you, last time we were here, we talked about child participation in the media, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Still
fighting for that.
We're still fighting for that.
Now, it is going to come. People who are watching and are at that particular table, where decisions are made, when young men come up and say they want to be on the table, kindly include them, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Let's talk about the kind of voice that you need to put out there now that you'll be sitting on the board. What kind of voice will you be putting out there, and where do you think this is what my fellow children, or rather people who are under 19 years, will want to say about COVID-19?
Well, actually, one thing that I would really love to champion is the aspect of child participation. Because you find that most of the policy makers and all these people who make decisions, sometimes even the challenges that are actually affecting the children themselves, you find that they're making decisions for children without even involving them. That's why I would really love to champion that child participation itself. There's also the issue of street children. That's something that I've really fought actually in my organization with our directors, people like Colin Sorono and Caleb Mugane. We've actually done a lot of stories on that. And I've not found any initiative being formed to be able to fight street children, to, you know, be able to bring these children close to us, because they do have talent, they do have potential to do great things. Those are the two things that I really want to champion as soon as we get maybe to the board and all that.
Brian, let me come to you. We had COVID here in the country, and it has affected a lot of, you know, disrupted almost everything, every sector, education being part of it, and you know, now we are trying to get back to the norm, and their calendar was disrupted. Now from next year probably things will be normal. So if at all we were to have children sit on the table during the COVID-19 pandemic and let their voices be heard, what would it be for you guys?
First of all, there are two issues I want to break down there. The question you asked, what kind of voice do we want to bring there? You know, when people think of children, they don't really think of a meaningful voice. But then I know we have solutions to problems. Like currently we are running the 200 million trees campaign, right? That was an idea that was innovated by children of Africa. Children, not adults, children. So that is the kind of voice we're trying to bring, not actually voice, the kind of ideas we're trying to bring to the table, the kind of ideas we're trying to force you guys to listen, you see? Because they're there, right? The next issue is education. You asked us what would bring to the table if we're included in the table. Our voice. You know, education affects majorly, I think 90% affects children. We're not talking about the upper learning institutions like the university, TVETs and all that. We're talking about primary and secondary school. These are people under 18 years old, so technically considered children. If you guys are going to make decisions, 100% of decisions without including us children, that is not fair. It is not fair at all. And I'm one of, Omar, you can testify to this. I'm one of the people who have been fighting for children to be included in the academic boards. At least, even if it's not technically a child, children views. It is important. In the Constitution, the Constitution gives the Kenyan citizens the mandate to actually voice their opinion. Public participation is very crucial in ruling the country. We are also part of the public. We are also part of the public. So why don't we get that right as well? You see, the kind of voice we're trying to bring is when you're going to disrupt our academic calendar, you're going to force us to go to school, and you're going to force us to go home. You are not only affecting our academical cycle and our learning cycle, you're also affecting us emotionally. And when you don't get to hear us, that's why the rate of high school and primary even school dropouts is rising. The rates of teenage pregnancies is rising because we are trying to rebel. It is human nature to rebel whenever they feel oppressed. The same thing for children. If you make us feel like we are outlaws and we are outsiders, we will live like outsiders. So the thing is, for you guys to actually manage to face the academic system, you'll have to learn to include this. And I think the new commission, the recently launched Presidential Working Party, should actually work on that, including children and their voices.
Are we doing enough in terms of, from where you sit, because now you are advocates, do you see the country doing enough in terms of having you on the table to just have a voice on these particular issues?
You know, Brian, that's why the COVID under 19 thing that we've been selected, that's why it was actually initiated, because it was the United Nations in partnership with 30 organizations, as Brian has said, they came together and they realized that during the whole COVID-19 pandemic thing, no child was involved. No child was actually sat down and asked, what would you have done in this situation? Why are children, there was a high case increase of teenage pregnancies in India, and no one sat down these children and asked them, why are there high risk of teenage pregnancies? We've had discussions at Mtoto News Insights, but then you find that the aspect of not involving children, that's why children get to do things maybe otherwise. Okay. But if you can invite them and get to talk to them and get to know what they're actually thinking, what they want to do, what are their aspirations, and these are the things that, you know, try and implement and then try to spearhead the rights of even the children. So you find that that aspect of not getting the children and that aspect of not talking to the children is what drives them away to actually do things that are not right. So you find that that's where the society goes wrong. Okay.
When you'll be on that board, for how long is it going to be again?
It's going to be a year.
A year.
Yes.
What, by the end of it, what do you want to have achieved? What would be the results from you?
I'd love to start with this. First of all, I'd love to have driven the climate agenda, especially for children, because, you know, we realize that you guys don't really care about the earth. So we want to show you that we care. I want us to push agendas like the 200 million trees agenda. I love that our current president, His Excellency Ruto, just pushed out a plan where every child's birthday you're supposed to like plant 100 trees. Yes. That's nice. That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of change I want to leave behind. I want to make sure that adults actually listen to ideas. I want to make sure that the UN will actually be listening to the children whenever they're pushing out agendas. The AU, the ESC, major bodies will be listening. Even the cabinet, in the cabinet, there's a ministry for that is social affairs. I think we're supposed to have a children's department there. Oh, KCA, the Kenya Children's Assembly. Yes. You asked us how the government interacts with children. This is something I want to push for. I want to make sure that by the time the year is over, I would have used the international body like COVID-19 to make sure that KCA is actually active and they're not just hearing, the government is not just hearing what they're saying, they're actually listening to them. That is the kind of change I want to leave, you know. I want to make sure children are actually not just seen, but they're also heard and listened to.
Okay. Ama, to you. By the end of it all, what do you want to have achieved? When you look back and you say, okay, I started this board, this is exactly what it was, and I'm very proud of myself.
Well, actually, the 200 million trees is a project by Mtoto News, and it's something I really enjoy if we all pushed it in front. But I'm going to speak on matters of technology. I'm speaking on education specifically. You find that this is something that I've said before and I've said a lot. Most schools usually do computer studies, especially the schools in the, let's talk about the marginalized areas or the schools in the informal settlements. They do things like computer studies. They do things like art lessons, but then they don't have the necessary facilities or the necessary, those things that they need. Computers, first of all, you need computers to do computer studies. You need the art materials to do art, but you find that these schools don't have those things. So these are things that would want to spearhead, and you know, at least by the end of the year we see a little bit of change in that. And then there's the issue that I touched on, which is the street children. This is something that we really need an initiative that will be able to help these children actually, because you know, most of the politicians in our country, when they are trying to get votes, by the way, they don't talk about street kids in Kenya, and it's something that's affecting them a lot.
It just happened the other day though.
Actually, yeah, it just happened this year and a few months ago. But what they do, they try to talk to the people who are giving them votes. That's why they say, we will be able to do this, we'll be able to do this. But all those, they touch on adults most of the time. That's why they don't even involve children. On children, they just speak on matters of education. We'll give you guys bursaries, and then after giving you guys bursaries, your children go to school. Do you know the challenges the children are going through in school? There's a high risk of suicide cases right now in schools. Like every week we have a video out there of a child saying, I've been beaten up, I have all these bruises on me, and I'm feeling like this and like this. We don't know the reason as to why that is happening. That's why we, as child advocates, we're here. And getting an opportunity like this for the COVID under 19, this is a really good platform for us to champion that. And to be able to talk about these things. Mental health, that's something that's very real, and that's something that most of our people out there need to understand. That's that's one of the many reasons or the many things that I'd want to talk about when you go to this COVID under 19 year.
And I want to probably out of something that you've mentioned in terms of, you know, you have cases of suicide rising, and people, we have no idea what kids go through in school, but you see videos out there when they're saying this exactly happened to me. What is it that people are not getting in terms of kids and children in general?
Well, you find that, you know, the 2013 Children's Act said that the corporal punishment is supposed to be removed completely in schools. And then the latest Children's Act, now it's not even a bill, it's an act, has actually talked about corporal punishment. Na imesema there's no such thing to be done in school. But then things are different in school. The way they say, kwa ground vitu ni different. When you go to schools, you find that children are still being beaten. Children are still being punished heavily. You know, there's that punishment, yeah, the child has done this, and then you're like, you know what, for this punishment, just sweep here, and then you're done. But then children are being punished heavily. So you find that children in schools are not having their peace. Bullying is still going on in school, but people do not know. And this is something quite funny. It's not even happening with the students. The students are not bullying these other students. It's the teachers. The teachers are the ones bullying the students these days. So that you find a teacher akishika huyo mtoto, when the teacher gets hold of that child, because the child has done a mistake somewhere, because children, we are children, we do make mistakes, and we need you guys to correct us. But sometimes you find that when the teacher gets hold of this child, when he or she puts the child down, he or she beats him thoroughly. And then the child ends up killing himself or herself. The child ends up injuring him or herself. And you guys ask, what's happening in our schools? We normally,
in most cases, we say kids of nowadays don't want to listen.
No. Actually, I think it's the adults of nowadays, not the kids of these days of Gen Z and all that.
Yeah, Gen Z has actually been, you know,
people usually say that Gen Z looks, it's a discussion on itself, but still, that's why I mentioned something about mental health. People, the better children of Gen Z right now are suffering mental health than maybe even children of the other generation, whatever that happened. So we need to talk about the Gen Z, and we've actually talked about this in Mtoto News, that children need access to therapy, by the way. Things like therapy, guidance and counseling should be done seriously in schools. You know, they usually just appoint a child to do that. How can you appoint a child to advise another child? Doesn't make sense, you know. But if we get professionals who can do this, therapy, psychologists, at least children can be able to learn, and they can be able to talk about what they're feeling and what they're going through.
Now I'm running out of time, but you mentioned something about Gen Z, and you said it's a conversation on itself. But this is the thing. Some people argue that this is the most woke generation ever. You don't sit down and say, this is toxic. If it's toxic, you walk out. You're not going to take it.
Well, it's true. This is the most woke generation ever. But the problem is, the Gen Z generation is still kind of under your generation, you see. We still have to follow your rules. And you guys are intimidated by how woke you are. So you end up stepping on us each and every time. Every single time we wake up and we tell you, this is actually our rights. And I think, Momoy, should actually put all the adults into task here. You should go and read all the rights of the children. We have a lot of rights, you know, rights that are stepped on a daily basis, and you guys don't realize it. When we say it is our right, you tend to say, oh, you're being rude and everything. It is your duty as a parent, as a peer, to actually learn these rights and uphold them. Gen Z is woke, you guys are not. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Okay, now I have, I think, a minute or two. Listen, there's something happening in the country right now, and you're talking about drought. And from where you sit, where do you feel like the voice of a young person is missing in this current issue?
Well, from here, we're talking about some of the measures that were actually taken up to actually curb this, right? You know, we had a meeting with the special representative on the Office of the Secretary General of the UN, and we were thinking, what is this violence that is caused by children because of climate change? You guys don't realize this, but child marriage, FGM cases, child abuse cases, children will drop out because of this drought. Yet you guys are not actually thinking about us. You want to launch programs that are actually going to affect children because of food and nutrition. We are more than our bodies. You need to realize that. When you guys think you're usually like, we'll give them bursaries and we'll give them food, that's enough. It's not. It really isn't. If you continue to do that, our generation will grow up as messed up as yours. And that's the truth.
And maybe that is the problem, because we look at our generation and say this is the right way to go.
You
So
destroyed
everybody
the
else
earth.
that is coming.
You destroyed the earth. Yes. You caused violence. As in, everything about your generation is just not right. And we're
Is there
trying to
anything
improve.
good about this generation that is actually before you?
That's why I'm
Yes,
why.
it's
what,
almost
what
over.
we're actually saying is, you see now the 200 million trees, that project that's being done. That is what we did, is that we know that in Africa, according to statistics, we have 400 million children in Africa, around 24 million children in Kenya. So if we divide that into half, especially the one for Africa, 400 million, divide it into half, we have 200 million children. Sindio? If one of them just plants a tree, one of them, just one of them, and here in Kenya we have 24 million, sindio? Half of that, 12 million, plant a tree. By the end of, by 2030, around 2030, 2040 there, going through that time, we would have fought climate change. Yani itakuwa like not even, it's not even to affect us. And we all know that according to the research and statistics that Africa is the most affected country by climate change, surprisingly. And hatunanga winter, hatuna autumn. So you find that if we do this and we follow these projects, initiatives formed by children, I would love to champion someone like Elian Wanjiku, who's doing a difference, making a difference in planting trees and all that.
Okay.
These are the people we want. These are the future children that we want and the future leaders. And allow me to finish by saying this, because I know we're running out of time. If we invest in children right now, then the future of our country and our world is way safe and is in better hands.
So to some extent, when it comes to matters trees, you are fighting for your future. That's the thing.
Yes,
because the
we're
people that have come before you.
You guys can just, die, we don't care.
Oh my God.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. You're still here. You need us to some extent.
No, not actually. No, I'm saying like, but let's face it, but the millennials didn't do much on planting trees and, fixing our environment. The ocean is messed up right now.
But we can still come together and do it. Come on.
Why I forgot to mention something. When we're relaunching GMOs and stuff, we need to consider the effect it's going to have on the children's health in future or something like that. We do not want to have cancer. Be careful of the food you're giving us, right? Okay. And something else, invest in children. I want you to follow the example of Mtoto News. Child-led things usually like succeed, you know. We're not the future, why? We are the present.
Oh, you're the present.
Yes, and I want to leave you with a wise saying I actually learned. We do not inherit the earth from you guys. You guys lend it from us. So you guys damage our things. You actually owe us. So I think you can actually fix that by investing in programs like the 200 million trees program, investing in children like us, LEN, and all that.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brian King, the child advocate and child journalist. But you're a journalist, I forgot to mention that. Very professional, trained, awesome human beings. I have it also an advocate, a child advocate, and a child journalist. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation here, to just listen to the young voices and what you plan to do in regards to so many things affecting the country, and also positioning yourself, for future and also for the present. Like you said, you are the present, right? All right, that has been our time here on the program, Look Up Weekend. I'm out of time. Thank you so much for your time. Let's do this again next time. Brian Amoya, sign language interpreter tonight. She left, was Felista Adundo. Have yourselves a lovely night and a lovely weekend.